Welcome to Thriving Your Love, a podcast where we will guide and help you improve your most precious relationships in life. This podcast is produced and hosted by certified emotionally focused therapist Claudio Vargas Silva, licensed marriage and family therapist, and Trisha Kim Walsh, also licensed marriage and family therapist.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's Trish and Claudio, and today's episode, we're going to be focusing on a topic that has affected all of us in our relationships at some point, whether you were a child, a teenager, or in a romantic relationship, and that is, yes, jealousy. Jealousy. Let that sink in your body. Take a breath in with us and a deep breath out. It is a hard topic to speak about, and our hope is that with an open mind and an open heart, we can reflect on how jealousy, this powerful sensation that happens within us, is about attachment. And from our experience, Claudio, it's a topic that I see often with my individual clients that speak about their insecurities, their greatest fears, the traumas that have happened in the past, things that they witnessed with their family of origin, and that it is the primal response when we feel the fear of rejection or abandonment. So I'll pause there, Claudio. And again, I want to highlight you were the one to recommend this being a great topic for us today. So let's start it off with you and begin on this introduction of jealousy, Claudio.
You just talked about attachment, and it normalizes, because if we see that we are very social by nature and we really have a need to know that we are important to someone, that we have that person that we can count on. So it comes from the moment that we are born, and throughout all our lives, we want to have that reassurance, that certainty that there is a special one there for us. So we see that jealousy is a normal thing. We are wired to be jealous because we are wired to belong. We want to have this sense of belonging and knowing that someone is there for us. This has been the reason that we as human beings, we have thrived, because we are there for each other. So this question of jealousy, it is actually a positive thing, because we need to know that everything is okay in the relationship. We need to be alert to anything that could threaten the relationship so we can do something about it. So it's a survival mechanism, but it can go to the extreme. So this is what we actually want to talk today about, what happens when it goes to the extreme and how we can prevent from having behaviors that are too controlling, Trisha, that it could get to a point that it's going to be the real threat to the relationship. Because if we are extremely jealous, we might end up losing the other person, not because the other person is looking for someone, but because our controlling behavior might be too much and might suffocate the other person, Trisha.
Right, Claudio, that is absolutely true. And it's important we normalize to understand it is very much in our human instincts to be tribal, to be connected. We are hardwired to survive. So part of the survival is I need my family, I need my partner to feel a sense of community and connection. We cannot survive without one another. So the initial instincts that we use, Claudio, in our Hold Me Tight workshop is, are you there for me? So it is very healthy and understandable for two partners, two lovers to come to each other and share their deepest fears. That's what we do as EFT therapists, is we talk about underlying fears, is in this moment when you talked about your female, I'm just using female as an example of that, Claudio, but it could just be part of a colleague or a coworker. That's one of the most common discussions I have with my individual and my couples, is the fear of another party entering into that relationship when there hasn't been an establishment of safety and trust. Is I fear, I don't trust, and I don't know. And I'm needing you to reassure me. But it gets very dangerous when we start to say to ourselves, I believe something bad is happening. I need proof to know that that bad thing is going to happen. And in a world of technology, Claudia, where life is meant to be easy with our phones, our emails, our tablets, that it actually can be dangerous for partners when they start to survey each other. In other words, to go into their phones, into their emails, computers, laptops without any agreement. Now, I do have couples that have an agreement. There are no secrets. They share the same password. That's what helps them feel safe. However, I have many more couples, majority of couples, that have an understanding that they have privacy for all sorts of reasons, but one being that they have requirements in their employment for security and have password protected information, that sometimes partners will go in to find out if there is an affair happening with a colleague, or that they did see the blue screen flashing at nighttime and they said, who is messaging my partner at this time of day? That has happened. And so I also want to normalize that, unfortunately, Claudio, I have had those couples that did find out, unfortunately, there was an affair happening. So this is the challenge, right, Claudio, is the fear, the paranoia, which we're going to speak to, sometimes the obsessions that cause us to have compulsive behavior, to say, I need to take matters into my own hands to audit you. If you don't have anything to worry about, me looking at your phone is not going to be a problem, love. And then also the control, which really pushes our people, the people we love, away, because it makes the other partner feel so hurt, so betrayed. You didn't trust me. You invaded my privacy. You don't respect me. I don't feel safe with you anymore.
It is a difficult thing to find a balance, because if we are insecure for some reason, and if the fear is overboard, so we may have these tendencies of controlling and not giving much freedom to the other person. So you are talking about what might happen in terms of media and internet. And there are also other things. For example, in one case, I know a guy married, and after he married, he cut completely the communication with his family of origin.
Mm,
So
yeah.
he didn't talk to his parents, siblings, and they had a good relationship before that. But the thing is that his partner demanded total attention, because she wouldn't feel special, important, and loved if
Mm,
he would have some time for his family.
mm,
So, against his will and feeling so guilty of abandoning his own family of origin, who loves him so much, to save his relationship with his partner, he really had to be totally 100% devoted to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't feel loved. So, this is another case also, like a guy that he couldn't, when he was walking with his wife, he couldn't look to the left or right. He had actually to just look down, because if he would look somewhere, his wife would think that he was looking to a woman. So we see that this is when the jealousy or the insecure becomes too much, like the person is so hyper vigilant. And we see, Trisha, that the person doesn't do that with a negative intention. It's just the fear of loss is so intense that the person cannot control. And sometimes this person knows that it is too much. They know that they are being obsessive,
Yes.
about it, that they are really being extreme, but they cannot control. And this is a case that people need help. They need some therapy to help them to control this obsession that they have and these fears that are extreme, so it doesn't hurt their relationship, because it can end up hurting their relationship. As I said before, it can end up, the person might lose, not because there is someone out there, but they might lose because they are controlling. Because another thing too is that when someone is too controlling, many times there is also anger that goes along with that. So the person might have huge explosions, and sometimes for no reason, just for thinking that the partner might have some relationship with someone, and the person is just imagining that that's not really happening, but the person is imagining, and then becomes explosive and extremely angry, having these outbursts of anger just because of what they are imagining, and actually is not really happening, Trisha.
People might be listening and wondering, how does this even happen? Why does this happen? We spoke a bit about evolution and how our brains are hardwired to survive, to be protective, to be tribal in our mindset. And we have to be mindful that our partners are not our property, and that even our children, although there can be an expectation of protecting children, that there can be jealousy even in interactions, that children might favor another parent or a teacher or a coach. There can be the threat of that connection. That's really what we want to normalize. But we also want to understand how this fear comes from, right? This that everyone has fear and everyone is capable of having jealousy. But in EFT, what we're really striving for is understanding. And that is, how do we get to this place of feeling this jealousy, especially, Claudio, when it may be imagined, it may never have happened, but it may have happened in the past. And so, something we were speaking about earlier today was that you might have been a child or a teenager growing up in a household where you did see betrayal happen by your parent and or by another family member. And seeing that betrayal may have, in your own attachment style, made you aware that there are times in our lives that the people we love the most may be the ones that hurt us the most, to betray us. If we've seen it demonstrated in our life, I have a client that I'm working with who has had that experience where they did witness their parents betray one another. And so, understandably, she would say, Trish, I've grown up in a household where there were no boundaries in a loving relationship. So I want that desperately for my own relationship, and I'm scared. I'm terrified to go out there and date because I don't want to put my heart out there only to get hurt. Not to mention her witnessing good friends who've been betrayed. And she'd say, these are great people and they're getting betrayed. Trish, I don't know. I want to stay single, but I also want to fall deeply and madly in love. What do I do? How do I do this? And I say, how would it be to be vulnerable when you're dating, to tell your potential partner, I really need to know that it's just the two of us. I'm not looking to be, again, I'm speaking to monogamous relationships. I do recognize our audience might have polyamorous couples, and that's a very different thing. That also sets really clear boundaries, as you and I are safe and feel comfortable to be in an open relationship. And we're going to talk about what that means, how that's defined. That is not today's topic, but I do want to emphasize safety means trusting and being so vulnerable enough to turn to the person you love more than anything in the world, or the person you're dating and you're interested in, to say, these things happened in my past. And how do I know you can reassure me that we are really going to be safe together? That we don't have to go on our phones or laptops. We don't have to keep secrets with each other, that you can really hear what my heart has to say. And I really need to know that I'm of value to you and you to me, that this relationship is between the two of us.
Yes, and what you said, Trisha, that trying to explain the cause, because there is always a cause. Nothing happens really that doesn't have an explanation. So if someone feels extremely jealous, something happened that explains that. The person is not doing that because they are purposefully doing that. If we talk to someone who has this extreme jealousy, they will say, I don't want to be insecure like that. It feels horrible for me having these fears of loss. So they are the ones who are suffering more than anyone else. And they also want to be healed from that. And the good thing is that it's possible to feel more secure, to be healed from that. And there are so many things that can happen, so many different causes. For example, a person that I knew in his childhood, his father compared him to his cousins, that his cousins were smarter, better than him. So he grew up with that idea that the people he loved, they were not really content about him, that they preferred other people. So he brought that to his marriage, and he was very insecure. And then working with him and his wife, it was really nice because it helped her to have more understanding, more compassion towards him. And sometimes when the person can understand how the past is influencing him or her, and then getting the compassion from the partner towards that, it is very helpful to heal them. Other thing too is when a couple is not emotionally connected, they don't feel really that sense of belonging to each other. They're not feeling loved, appreciated, important. And if they are not really feeling connected to each other, as we help couples in therapy, we help them to be vulnerable and to connect to each other through vulnerability. So when they don't have that connection, they might become insecure. And because they are trying to find, well, I am not connected to this person, maybe there is something going on. So they
Mhm.
become more insecure. But when there is an emotional, a strong emotional connection, that also helps the couple, Trisha, to be able to overcome this alarm system that they have that is so intense sometimes. And I have had situations like of couples that I have helped that when they felt more connected emotionally to each other, their jealousy went down significantly because now their sense of belonging was much stronger, Trisha.
There's so many great examples, Claudio, that you've just used. And I hope that as you listeners and viewers are taking this in, it's helping you understand, because a big part of what we do in our work for couples therapy, family therapy, individual therapy is we help you understand how we get caught up into this violent storm that happens inside of us. And what we call that within the model is the cycle, is even the jealousy of reminders of not being forgotten, by the person or the people we love. And in every setting that can happen between family members, there's preferential treatment and priority in class. You can see the setting of just how the nature of teachers to students, classmates to peers, the whole term of being popular. We are just a world in which we're very aware of our presentation and how we fit in it. And it can make us feel very lonely to not feel that we are chosen, that we belong, that we matter, that we're understood, that we're cherished, right, Claudio? And so as we're naming and talking about this really big topic, I mean, jealousy, we could probably, again, like so many of the topics, Claudio, that we speak to, we could talk for days about jealousy. Our hope is, as we understand what is jealousy, what can come out of jealousy, what is the causes of jealousy, that we can also get curious to say, what do I do with jealousy? How do I understand my jealousy, rather than judging it and getting distant and saying, oh, that's not me, I'm not that, or it's my partner does that. We can also say, what can I do about that? And I've just, Claudio, I just have started reading this wonderful book called How to Love by Thich Nhat Hanh. I hope I'm saying his name correctly, a Buddhist monk who really is emphasizing that the love comes from within. Is my pain is your pain is my pain. And how do we have the courage to hold this pain together? And I think it's such a beautiful way of understanding jealousy, is there's a hurt, there's an injury, and a fear. And it's hard for me to share this with you, but I want to be reassured by you that we really are okay, that what's happening between the two of us or happening around us, that you can reassure me, bring me close to you, let me know that you are my beloved and I am your beloved. And these are the fears that I have. And then rather than the partner having a knee-jerking reaction like, how could you even think that? Why would you think that? That we can know that there's a cause, it came from somewhere. And sometimes we as partners may not have known all the injuries and traumas that have happened, as I say, predating the relationship. And that's where we in therapy talk about, where did this come from? So if you're a journaler, I would recommend journaling. If you are someone who is already in individual therapy, that's a good place to process. And you can really learn a lot about yourself in understanding your relationship to jealousy. And then if you're in couples therapy, obviously, bring it up to your therapist the next time you're in a session. But our hope is today's episode is helpful for you to engage in with curiosity, no judgment, on how do we love deeply, but to understand our emotions more deeply.
I want to take advantage of this and invite our listeners, because we are going to have our podcast now more in a weekly basis, hopefully, or maybe not more than 2 weeks. And also invite our couples that are attending to come to our workshop in May that are going to have, Tricia. It was going to
Yes.
be great to have everyone with us. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in such a different place of the pandemic. I mean, Claudio, the reason we started this podcast was because our hearts were really deeply hurting in the loss of connection. And during the pandemic, when we were quarantining safely, we decided to do our Hold Me Tights virtually. And we were also Hold Me Tight workshops and doing the podcast so we could still connect with you, make sure that everyone who was in this time of the pandemic felt connected, and we're learning and growing about their relationship. So we're excited and can't wait to continue offering you these episodes. And we invite you, if you are enjoying them, which we really do hope you are, we are too, send us questions, send us topics. If there's any interesting things that you're reading online about psychology, about relationships, let us know. We really want this to be your podcast too. And we can't wait to, see you the next time. Hopefully listen to us the next time very soon.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We hope you'll join us soon again for our next episode of Thriving Your Love.